Hello, and welcome to the True Crime Lounge. My name is Breezy, and today we're going to be talking about my favorite Valentine's Day. The only Valentine's Day I actually like, but for those of you who don't know, I hate Valentine's Day. I think it is overly commercialized. I could go without celebrating it. But I have one Valentine's Day in particular that I love, only like. And if you haven't guessed, it's called the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Um, hit that like button. I want you to comment something about this case you like or anything in general you find interesting. Ring that bell for notifications and subscribe. And we should get started. So the St. Valentine's Day Massacre happened February 14, 1929, and it shocked the world when Chicago's North Side erupted in gang violence. So that gang warfare ruled the streets of Chicago during the late 1920s, and his chief gangster, Al Capone, sought to consolidate control by eliminating his rivals to illegal trades of bootlegging. Ironically enough, this was not what he would get sent to Alcatraz for. I'm jumping it. But anyway, the rash of gang violence reached its bloody climax in the garage of the city's north side on February 14, 1929, when 7 men associated with the Irish gangster George Bugs Moran, one of Capone's longtime enemies, who was shot to death by several men. So the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, as it was known, remains as unsolved and was never officially linked to Capone, but he was generally considered to have been responsible for the murders. But never did he get convicted for it. Which is why I will be talking about this on my True Crime Lounge podcast on the episode of with Al Capone, so be on the lookout for that. But, so, how do we have the rise of Scarface? Well, it really starts with Al Capone in Chicago. So from 1924 to 1930, the city of Chicago gained a widespread reputation for lawlessness and violence. Not coincidentally, the phenomenon coincided with the reign of the chief crime lord Al Scarface Capone, who took over his boss for Johnny Tarrio in 1925. Tarrio, who was seriously wounded in an assassination attempt in 1924, had retired to Brooklyn. Prohibition ushered in by the passage of the 18th Amendment in 1920. So in the 1920s, it was greatly increased earnings of American gangsters through bootlegging. And what is bootlegging? Well, this is the illegal manufacture and sells alcohol and speakeasies, in which is illicit drinking establishments, as well as gambling and prostitution. Capone's income from these activities were estimated at some $60 million a year. His net worth in 1927 was around $100 million. So, fun fact, did you know Bugs Moran was on his way into the garage in the Chicago Times at the St. Valentine's Day Massacre? He missed only getting killed by a few minutes. I know. So a few days later, he told reporters only Capone kills like that. Reached at his Florida home for a comment for the murders. Capone offered his opinion, saying the only man who kills like that is Bugs Moran. So it was a he said situation. So over the years, Capone consolidated control over Chicago's crime rackets by ruthlessly gunning down his rivals. And in 1924, authorities counted some 16 gang-related murders, saying this brand of slaying continued until 1929, reaching a high of 64 murders in 1 year during that time. So federal authorities, including the FBI, had much less jurisdiction than they have today, and did not include Chicago gang-related activity. Get that? So the massacre at St. Valentine's Day was reached as so basically this actually happened because of Capone's longtime enemies, the Irish gangster Bugs Moran, who ran his bootlegging operations out of a garage on 2122 North Clark Street. And on February 14th, 7 members of I keep wanting to say Mormon, but I know it's not that. So Moran's operation were gunned down while standing lined up facing the wall of the garage. So some 70 rounds of ammunition was fired when police officers from Chicago's 36th district arrived. They found one gang member, Frank Gusenberg, barely alive, and as few moments before he died, they pressed him to reveal what had happened. But Gusenberg wouldn't talk. Loyalty, people. So, police could only find an eyewitness, but eventually concluded that the gunmen dressed as police officers had entered the garage pretending to be arresting the men. Though Moore and others immediately blamed the massacre on Capone's gang, the famous gangster himself claimed to have been in his Florida home at the time. No one was ever brought to trial for the murders. It remains one of the biggest unsolved crimes in history. So, what about the downfall of public enemy number one? Well, though the St. Valentine's Day Massacre marked an end to the significant gang opposition to Capone's rule of Chicago, it also could be said he marked the beginning of its downfall. With highly effective organizations, his impressive income and willingness to ruthlessly eliminate his rivals, Capone had become the country's most notorious gangster. Newspapers dubbed him public enemy number one. The federal authorities began investigating Capone after he failed to appear before a federal grand jury after being subpoenaed on March 29. Question: why did Capone go to Alcatraz? If you can name it, you are a very smart person. Okay, let me know in the comments, why did he go? I know the answer, I just want to see if you know the answer. So when he finally appeared and testified, federal agents arrested him for contempt of court. Capone posted bond and was released only to be arrested in Philadelphia in May for killing a sale of weapons. Capone served 9 months in prison and was released on good behavior. So while in federal court, February 1931, a federal court found Capone guilty in contempt charge and sentenced him to 6 months in Cook County jail. Meanwhile, the U.S. Treasury had launched the investigation into Capone's income on tax evasion. If you set that down in the answer, you are correct. Through diligent forensic accounting, Special Agent Frank Wilson and other members of the Intelligence Unit, Internal Revenue Services were able to put together a case. And in June of 1931, Capone was indicted on evasion of federal income tax. So convicted that October after an internationally publicized trial, he was sentenced to 11 years in prison, first in Atlanta, then later in Alcatraz. He was released in 1939 and died of an invalid recluse at his Florida home in 1947. That's it for today's episode. I will see y'all next time, and let me know in case y'all want me to talk about next. I have actually had a chance to go see Alcatraz, east here in Gatlinburg, and I loved it. I'm definitely gonna go again. But yeah, that is on my Breezyville page if you want to go check that out. But yeah, I will see y'all next time, and y'all have a great day.